This morning, I want to try to connect some more pieces and give you some more tools in your toolbox as you're building your pitch. And hopefully, if I run on time, you'll actually have a few minutes at your table to start refining the way that you're talking about this as you've been doing these past couple days. But before that, I thought I'd start by telling you a little bit more about myself. I stand before you an unapologetic cat person. You know. Yeah, we have a few cat people, right? A few? Yes! You're out there? Okay. Everyone always puts pictures of their dogs. I think cat people were a little bit more reticent, like the cats. We don't need to do that. This is Hunter. He doesn't read materials. He sits on my computer sometimes. I'm also the parent of 2 public school going students in New York City. I have a rising 6th grader and a rising 8th grader. So that's my son's elementary school on the top where he just graduated, PS 11. And that's MS 255 on the bottom where my daughter will be an 8th grader next year. Today is the first day of summer for New York City public school students. They got out yesterday, so I have lots of happy texts from my kids this morning. Do I have any other New Yorkers in the room? I know there's at least one. Oh, no, okay. Oh, well, yes, Stephanie, all right. All right, if you want to hear about raising kids in New York City, because people always think it's crazy, just notice that behind my kids, that short little building is a donut store. And behind that donut store is my apartment building. So I am raising 2 kids in front of a donut store. They think our life is pretty great in New York. So this is my 4th year of teaching class at Eastside Middle School. I was a 6th grade math teacher. This is the class that weathered September 11th with me. This is the class that taught me a lot about myself, and many of us still keep in touch, and I consider myself to be a teacher at heart, as I know many of you are who have moved on from the classroom. But I think that this is significant also because I taught at a time in the 90s in New York City where I didn't realize how lucky I was. As a new middle school math teacher, I was presented a set of materials that were high quality that came with a tremendous amount of professional learning. And it was only after I left did I realize how incredibly rare that was. So my journey to advocacy takes me all the way to this place, which is the Tweed Courthouse, which is now the Department of Ed's kind of main central office. Not at all intimidating, huh? Like you actually have to climb all of the stairs unless you have a special pass to get into the building. I can't think of anything less inviting to parents and families than this building, or less inviting to a young teacher like myself. So fast forward to about 2010 when New York City was taking its first steps to adopt the Common Core standards, and I was coming back after a second maternity leave as an instructional coach. And at the time, the city was doing some really smart, innovative things. We had these things called citywide instructional expectations. They focused all 1,800 schools on the same ideas around teaching and learning. Pretty cool. They were developed by educators. They were developed by a team of teachers who was thinking about what would be important in elementary, middle, and high school classrooms. And then they were shared with principals, and there was aligned professional learning across the district. It wasn't perfect, but it was pretty darn good. And so they vetted these drafts of materials to coaches. And so I got a draft of the material in a PD, and I looked at it for math, and I saw that they were going to focus on modeling. And I had feelings. I had so many feelings. And I'd never done any real advocacy before, but I was positive that the way that they were talking about mathematical modeling in the Common Core was not right. And so I did what every good former teacher and instructional coach did, which is I ranted to all of my friends. And that was it. I did a lot of ranting. I did a lot of texting during PDs and being like, oh, really? They think this is gonna work? Until finally someone said to me, if you feel so passionately, why don't you write to the chief academic officer? To which I was like, really? He's gonna he's gonna read that email? And so I ranted some more and I got a next draft and I thought somebody will say something. They're not gonna let this go out. And it was exactly the same. And so then I was angry because there are over 1 million students in New York City. And so the impact of the citywide instructional expectations are for real. And so I turned to a colleague and I said, all right, should we write something? And she was luckily in graduate school, and she was like, yes, we should write something. And I have research to back up our ideas. And I was like, yes, let's do it. And so we did exactly what Christopher said yesterday. We wrote a white paper, and we put research in it, and we cited examples, and we had teacher examples, and we packaged it up, and we emailed it, and I thought, okay, at least I said something. 3 days later, I couldn't believe it, but I had an email from the chief academic officer who said, what an interesting paper on modeling. You should probably come talk to the people who are working on the citywide instructional expectations. And so my friend and I literally held hands the first time we started to go up these steps, because it was like post-maternity suit that I was like not used to wearing. And I was like, okay, we'll go to these people. And I just started asking, like, how? How did you decide this? How did the educators weigh in? How did you get this on paper? And before long, I was assigned with my friend to rewrite the paragraph on mathematical modeling for the citywide instructional expectations, and we did. And that's what went out to all of the kids and all of the schools in the city. And I realized that nobody was gonna say something unless I said something. And there were probably tons of teachers and coaches, just like myself, that didn't think that if they spoke up, they would have any impact. And we did. So that led me to then join a team that was piloting what it looked like to really work on those instructional expectations in schools. And so pretty soon I started working at that office. And I know, it was crazy, and beautiful inside. And trying to make it less and less intimidating for teachers to have voice, and developing ways where, in kind of a R&D principle, teachers would bring classroom work and get it directly into the hands of policymakers to say, here's what we're struggling with in the early days of Common Core, and here's what's really working and what we should invest in. And that led me to do more and more professional learning, to spend time thinking with teacher teams, just like you're doing in cluster tables. And so when I had the opportunity to join EdReports, it made perfect sense to me, because I thought there can't be anything more important than connecting really good, high quality materials that have been vetted by teachers, where the voices of teachers are the voice of the organization, and then getting them out to everyone. So I'm really excited to be here, and I wanted to share that story with you because I think many of you already have this story. Even if you're not standing up here giving Ignites, maybe you're thinking about how next year you would like to do an Ignite. That would be great. But I hope that throughout today and the rest of the conference, you start thinking about what are the places where you feel passionately, how are you going to connect them, and how can you start to tell your story?